It happened at the Chamber of Commerce banquet, one of those small-town events where everybody knows everybody and the chicken's always dry. I was in a rented blazer I couldn't wait to take off, sitting at a round table with my wife, Shannon, right next to the mayor and half the city council. Shannon lived for this kind of thing. Dressed to the nines, hair curled, voice just a little too loud. She liked attention like most people like oxygen. And me? I was just there because it was expected. Smile, nod, clap for the Small Business Awards. That kind of night. Then the mic made its way to our table. Somehow it always did. Shannon didn't even hesitate. She stood up with her wine glass, leaned into the mic like she was about to host Saturday Night Live, and smiled at the crowd. "I just want to say how proud I am of my husband," she started, putting her hand on my shoulder like I was a damn rescue dog. "He runs a great little store, he really does. Even if he did accidentally wipe the cash register software clean last quarter. Bless his heart. He thought he was updating the inventory." Laughter. Loud, messy, the kind that makes your skin crawl. She went on, twisting it like she always did. "He called tech support in a panic," she said. "Turns out he'd reset it to factory settings. We lost 2 years of data. Poor guy couldn't even figure out how to print a receipt for 3 days. The whole table was cracking up. Even the mayor chuckled into his napkin. And I just sat there, jaw tight, hands folded in my lap like a damn mannequin. It wasn't the first time. Not by a long shot. But this time something just snapped. I pushed back my chair and stood up. Didn't say a word. Just walked out. Shannon called after me. "Babe, where are you going?" But I didn't look back. I pushed through the ballroom doors, headed straight for the parking lot. My truck felt like the only solid thing in the world. I slid in, shut the door, and stared out the windshield. The laughter still echoed in my ears. Even though I was outside, I could picture them all, still chuckling, still clapping her on the back for being so funny. And me? Just the joke. I gripped the wheel. My hands were shaking. All these years I'd laughed with her. At barbecues, at Christmas parties, at fundraisers. I thought I was keeping the peace. But sitting in that truck, humiliated in front of half the town, I finally saw it for what it was. She wasn't joking. She was performing. And I was the prop. I pulled out of the lot and drove home alone. No music. No talking. Just the sound of my own breathing and a voice in my head saying, "Not again." I got home, kicked off my shoes, and went straight to the liquor cabinet. I didn't bother turning on any lights. The glow from the hallway was enough to see the bottle of rum. I poured 2 fingers over ice, sat down at the kitchen table, and stared across the room at the wall of old family photos. Right there in the center was one from the grand opening of our store. Shannon smiling like she just won the lottery, front and center with her hand on the ribbon. And me, in the back, half out of frame, half forgotten, just like always. I brought my laptop over, set it down, and opened a blank document. At the top, I typed, "Times she made me the joke." The words looked stupid, petty even, but I kept going. 4th of July cookout, 2 summers ago. I burned a burger, and Shannon told everyone I once started a grease fire making bacon. Neighborhood wine night. She told the story of how I thought cilantro was parsley and ruined her famous dip. Company Christmas party. She acted out my reaction when I saw the electric bill after she left the space heaters on all weekend. I kept going and going. The list got long fast. I wasn't even trying to dig deep yet. Then I hit the one that really got under my skin. Our 10-year anniversary dinner. Her parents took us out to that fancy Italian place in St. Paul. I had just finished telling them about expanding the storage area behind the store. Shannon smiled, tilted her head, and said, "Oh, you mean like the time he tried to install a new faucet and flooded the kitchen?" She started laughing. "Remember that, babe? You had to call my dad to shut the water off. You were soaked." They laughed. The waiter laughed. I smiled and nodded, pretending I didn't feel like I'd just been pantsed in public. And that was the problem. I always smiled. I always laughed along. By the time I looked up, I had 3 full pages typed out. 3 pages of memories where I was nothing but a joke in my own life. The front door opened. I heard her heels first, then the rustle of her purse. Are you kidding me? Shannon's voice snapped through the house. You left? In the middle of dinner? In front of everyone? I didn't answer right away, just kept my hands on the keyboard. She walked into the kitchen, saw the rum, saw the laptop. Seriously? You're gonna sulk now? I looked up. How long have I been your favorite punchline? She froze. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. I turned the screen toward her. That's just the short version. She squinted at it, then scoffed. Oh my God, you made a list? That's insane. No, I said. What's insane is how long I let it go on. She crossed her arms. They're just stories. Lighten up. People laugh because they like you. No, I said. They laugh because you make them laugh. At my expense. And you know it. Oh, come on. You're being dramatic. I stood up. You want dramatic? Remember when I asked you not to bring up the plumbing thing in front of your parents? And you did it anyway? That wasn't a story. That was you throwing me under the bus. And you laughed while I sat there like a damn idiot. You're overreacting. No, I'm finally reacting. I stepped around the table and stood in front of her. You've done this for years. At parties. At dinners. At our son's birthday, Shannon. You told a room full of kids I once glued my fingers together trying to fix a toy. She rolled her eyes. That was funny. It was humiliating. She blinked. I didn't mean it like that. Doesn't matter. You meant it enough to keep doing it. Her arms dropped. So what now? You're gonna hold a grudge over every dumb thing I've ever said. No. I'm just not pretending anymore. I shut the laptop, picked up my glass, and walked past her toward the stairs. Behind me, I heard her mutter, "You're embarrassing yourself." I didn't turn around. I just said, "No. I've been letting you do that for years." I slept on the couch that night. Not because we had a screaming match. There wasn't even a fight. I just didn't want to be near her. I laid there staring at the ceiling, arms folded across my chest, thinking about that damn list. The way she looked at me like I was overreacting, like I was some sensitive little idiot who couldn't take a joke. Truth was, I'd taken every one of them for years, smiled through them, laughed with the crowd. That was done. Next morning, I woke up stiff and sore, back screaming from the cushions. But my head? Clear. I walked into the kitchen and she was already there, humming like nothing had happened, flipping pancakes. She'd even laid out a plate for me, 2 pancakes, turkey bacon, orange juice. Not my usual, not her usual, just something neutral. Safe. Morning, she said, like we were in a sitcom. I sat down but didn't touch the food. We're not doing this. She gave me a fake, confused look. Doing what? I pulled the laptop over and opened the document again. You really want to pretend like last night didn't happen? She didn't answer, just stared at me. I scrolled halfway down the list. Let's take a walk down memory lane, Shannon. PDA fundraiser, last September. You told the story about me accidentally locking myself in the stockroom. That was funny, she said, rolling her eyes. People were crying laughing. Yeah, I snapped. At me. Not with me. You think I wanted the school principal hearing that? Oh my God. It wasn't that serious. Christmas party at the DeVises. I kept going. You told that whole crowd I cried watching Homeward Bound. You did cry. It's not a big deal. I slammed the laptop shut. It is when you tell it like I'm pathetic. Like I'm some joke of a man you get to parade around and laugh at. She put her hands on her hips. You need to grow a thicker skin. No, I said. You need to stop treating me like I'm beneath you. She blinked. I stood up and leaned on the table. You remember last year, I brought you that idea? The hardware supply co-op in Duluth. I had numbers, projections, even a meeting set up. You rolled your eyes and said, "That's cute, but maybe stick to running the register." That's not what I said. That's exactly what you said. I walked over to the side counter, grabbed the folder I'd printed this morning, and tossed it in front of her. Here, that cute idea? It doubled in value. The company just got picked up for regional distribution. If I had invested back then, like I planned, we'd be sitting on an extra 100 grand. She stared at the page, lips parted but silent. Yeah, I said. I missed it, because I let you talk me out of it. Just like you've talked me out of damn near everything I've ever wanted to do. She stepped back. So now what? You're gonna blame me because you didn't take a risk? No, I said. I'm telling you things are changing. I took a step closer. From now on, I make my own choices. If I want to invest, I will. If I want to say something in public, I will. If I want to leave the room when you try to humiliate me again, I won't hesitate. You're being ridiculous, she said, her voice tight. No, I said. I'm finally being real. She crossed her arms again. And what? You think this little tantrum is gonna fix things? It's not a tantrum, I said. It's a shift. Financially, socially, personally, you don't run my life anymore. You say that like I ever did. I stared her down. You did. Because I let you. That ends now. She didn't have a response. Just stood there in the middle of the kitchen, her arms crossed, lips tight, eyes wide with something that looked like fear, but not for me. For her. For what it meant if I really meant it this time. I turned, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Where are you going? She called after me. To be by myself, I said, hand on the knob. You should try it sometime. And I walked out. I got back right before dinner. She was setting the table like we hadn't just hit the reset button on everything. Real calm, real polite, but I could feel the static in the air. She'd made salmon. Her piecemeal, like clockwork, always when she wanted to sweep something under the rug and move on. I sat down, didn't say much at first. We ate in silence for a few minutes, forks scraping plates, the soft clink of glasses. Then I dropped it. I'm having coffee with someone tomorrow. She looked up mid-bite. Oh, Elena, I said. You remember her. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. Elena? From before? Yeah, she's back in town. Just catching up. That's inappropriate, she snapped, setting her fork down hard. I didn't blink. Is it? Yes. You don't just go meet ex-girlfriends for coffee like it's nothing. I leaned back in my chair. Funny. You didn't think texting Brent past midnight was inappropriate. Her face stiffened. Weeknights. Weekends. Whole strings of texts after 11. Don't worry. I didn't go through your messages. Just looked at the logs. Timestamps, Shannon. Numbers don't lie. She didn't move. Just stared at me like she couldn't believe I'd actually said it. I figured I was going crazy. I went on, wondering why your work calls always happened from the car or the backyard. Why you suddenly had so many Saturday meetings. Then I started noticing how often Brent's name came up. Always casual. Always slipped in. Her voice finally came out. Tight. Shaky. He's just a project manager. I work with him. At midnight. She looked away. We were coordinating a client proposal. I let that hang. You work in small business retail, not NASA, I said. You're not coordinating a rocket launch. I don't like your tone. Then change the story, I said. Because right now you're insulting both of our intelligence. She stood up, grabbed her plate, walked it to the sink like she could clean her way out of it. I stayed seated, calm. That's not what you think, she muttered. No, I asked. Then explain it to me. She didn't answer. Didn't think so, I said, standing up. Look, I don't care if you want to play the game. Just don't act surprised when the scoreboard shows up. You think I'm cheating? She said, spinning around. That's rich, considering you're the one making plans with an old flame. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, I'll be at Morrison's Cafe at 2 tomorrow. You can think whatever you want about it. Wow, she said. You're really going. I am. She shook her head, laughing bitterly. Elena always had a thing for lost causes. And you always had a thing for guys who don't challenge you, I said, brushing past her. I rinsed my plate, dried it off, and left it in the rack. She stood there behind me, breathing like she was about to go 10 rounds, but I didn't give her the energy. I walked out of the kitchen, upstairs, and shut the bedroom door behind me. Then I paused, turned around, walked back down the hall and grabbed a pillow and blanket. Back on the couch. And for the first time in months, I slept straight through the night. No pacing. No knots in my stomach. Just quiet. The cafe was quiet when I walked in. Morrison's, that old brick corner spot with chipped paint and a few too many potted plants. Smelled like cinnamon and espresso. It hadn't changed since college, except the tables weren't wobbly anymore. Elena was already there. She was sitting near the window, stirring a cup of black coffee, hair tied back, same no-nonsense posture she always had. She looked older, sure. Lines around her eyes, silver streak in her hair, but she wore it like it was hers, not something she was trying to fight. She saw me and smiled. "You're still 5 minutes late," she said. I smiled back. "Some things don't change." She motioned for me to sit. I ordered a coffee from the kid behind the counter and slid into the booth across from her. For a second, we just looked at each other. "How long's it been?" I asked. 14 years, she said. "Give or take." "Feels like longer." "Feels like yesterday," she said. "Except you don't have that awful goatee anymore." I laughed. "God, that thing was terrible." We talked for a while, casual stuff at first. She was back in town running outreach for a nonprofit. Homeless assistance, community grants. Said it was good work even if the pay sucked. Divorced 3 years ago. No kids. She didn't seem bitter about any of it. And she didn't ask about Shannon. Not at first. She looked me over, tilting her head a little. "You look tired." "Yeah. Long week. I heard your dad passed. A couple years ago, right?" I nodded. "Almost 3 now." "I'm sorry," she said, real soft. "He was a good guy." "He was." She looked down at her cup. "You were close." "Yeah," I said. "I thought I'd be better when it happened. You know? Prepared. But it just gutted me." "I get it," she said. "I remember how proud he was when you opened the store. Kept showing everyone that photo in his wallet." I smiled a little. "Yeah, I found that photo the other night. Shannon's front and center. I'm way in the back, half in shadow." Elena didn't say anything right away, just let the silence sit there. Then she asked, "Are you happy?" I didn't answer right away, just stared out the window at the people walking by. "No," I finally said. "Not for a long time." She nodded slowly, like she already knew. "I let her chip away at me," I said. "Little by little. Jokes, jabs, the way she talks to me like I'm a child who can't be trusted with sharp objects. I didn't even notice it happening. I just shrank." "You used to take up space," she said. "You used to walk into a room like you had 1,000 ideas fighting to get out." "Yeah, well, I guess I got tired of being told they were all stupid." She leaned in. "What happened to that guy?" I swallowed hard. "I don't know. But I think I'm starting to look for him again." She smiled. Not in a flirty way, just real. Like she meant it. "You should. He wasn't perfect, but he was alive." I nodded. "He's still in there. Somewhere." We sat quiet for a while after that, just sipping coffee, watching the world go by. Then I looked at the time. "I should go," I said. "Got a few things I need to deal with." She stood up with me. "I'm around," she said. "Anytime." "Yeah," I said. "I think I'll take you up on that." As I walked out of the cafe, I didn't feel lighter exactly, but I felt a little less buried. I was still in the truck outside Morrison's when I pulled up the number. Got it from a buddy who'd used him during a messy divorce. Said the guy didn't play games. Hank Stevens. Private investigator. Ex-military. No website, just a voicemail that sounded like it was recorded in a parking garage. He called me back 20 minutes later. "Who gave you my number?" he asked. Gruff voice, no greeting. "Mike Yates," I said. "Said you're the guy people call when they stop pretending." "Yeah," Hank said. "People come to me when they already know the truth." I stared out the windshield, thumb tapping the steering wheel. "His name's Brent. Works with my wife. I need to know what's really going on." "You want full surveillance?" "I want confirmation. Pictures. Times. Places." Anything that proves what I already suspect. Give me 5 days. He didn't ask for details. Just told me where to send the retainer and asked for Brent's photo and car info. I emailed everything from the gas station Wi-Fi down the road, then headed home. Shannon was in the kitchen when I walked in. Music playing, wine bottle half gone, candles lit. Like she was auditioning for a fake Hallmark marriage. "Hey, stranger," she said, smiling like we hadn't been walking on broken glass all week. "You missed dinner, but I saved you a plate." I nodded and opened the fridge. Cold air hit my face, helped me think. "Not hungry." She poured another glass of wine and followed me into the living room. "So I was talking to Brent today," she said too casually. "He might loop me into a new side project. Marketing consulting or something." There it was. She watched me while she said it, like she was waiting for a twitch, a flinch, some clue that I knew more than I let on. I sat down, grabbed the remote, didn't even look at her. "That's nice." She blinked. "Yeah, I guess it is." She stood there a second longer, then wandered off. I heard the clink of her wine glass in the sink, the shuffle of her feet upstairs. I stayed where I was, staring at a blank TV screen, heart steady. I'd spent years letting her drive the narrative. This time I was done reacting. Later that night I walked upstairs. She was already in bed, scrolling on her phone, pretending not to watch me. I didn't say a word. I walked past her, into the spare room I'd been sleeping in, cracked the window, and let the night air pour in. Cool, quiet, honest. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. I could hear a train in the distance. Somewhere far off, a dog barked once and stopped. And for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an explanation. I just stood there for a long while, letting it all breathe. Elena picked the place. Little Thai restaurant tucked between a laundromat and a vape shop off Jefferson. Christmas lights strung across the windows, hand-painted signs with chipped lettering. Shannon would have taken one look and made some snarky comment about food poisoning or cheap date energy. But inside, it was warm, quiet, smelled like garlic and lemongrass. Nothing fancy, just good. Elena was already seated when I got there. Same booth style I remembered from years ago. She smiled when she saw me. No judgment, no tension, just ease. "Place okay?" she asked, flipping the menu shut. "Perfect," I said, sitting across from her. If it had a broken jukebox and sticky floors, it'd feel just like college. She laughed. "Except now we can afford more than fried rice and water." We ordered green curry for her, pad cew for me, couple Thai iced teas. And then we talked. Really talked. She brought up those early college days, the little ventures I used to chase. Selling used textbooks online, flipping old tools I bought at auctions, even the ridiculous DIY lawn chair rental stand I set up one summer on the beach. "You were always pitching something," she said. "Some new hustle, some idea you swore would catch." I shrugged. "Yeah, well, Shannon talked all that out of me." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Talked you out of it?" Every time I brought up something new, she'd shoot it down. Said it was impractical. Stick to what works. That became her catchphrase. Eventually, I just stopped trying. "Damn," she said, stirring her drink. "You let her steal your fire." "I didn't think it was stealing," I said. "Not at first. Just thought it was compromise." "Compromise is giving up dessert so you can split the check," she said. "What you're talking about is surrender." I leaned back. Let that sit. She wasn't wrong. She looked me straight in the eye. "Listen, I'm not going to pretend I know everything you're dealing with. But I'll tell you this, don't stay in a marriage just because you're scared to leave. And don't leave just to prove you can." I nodded slowly. "Then what the hell do I do?" "Leave when you're ready to live," she said. "Not when you're just trying to get even." I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like someone actually saw me. Not the version of me Shannon reshaped, but the guy I used to be. The guy with rough hands and stupid ideas and too much ambition. The server dropped off our food. I took one bite and felt something almost like peace creep in. And then my phone buzzed. Hank, we need to meet. It's about Brent. I stared at the screen for a second. You okay? Elena asked. Yeah, I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Just something I need to deal with soon. Her face tightened just a little. Bad. Could be, I said. But at least it's not fake. She nodded, didn't press. We ate the rest of the meal in silence. But it wasn't awkward. It was like she knew I needed the quiet to brace myself for whatever came next. After we paid, she touched my arm as we stepped outside. Whatever it is, don't let it make you forget who you are. Or who you were. I nodded. I'm trying to remember. You're doing better than that, she said. You showed up. I watched her walk to her car, then stood on the sidewalk for a minute, letting the cold air hit my face. Then I texted Hank back. Tomorrow. Morning. Name the place. Hank texted me a location. Small office behind a strip mall off Highway 10. Windowless, concrete walls, buzzing door with a broken intercom. Place looked like where secrets go to die. He opened the door before I even knocked. Built like a fridge, buzz cut, eyes sharp but not cold. Just all business. You bring cash? He asked. I handed him the envelope. All there. He nodded, walked me to a battered desk in the back. Everything smelled like black coffee and dust. I got what you needed, he said, pulling out a thick manila folder. You're not gonna like it, but I don't think you'll be surprised. He set it down and opened it slowly, like it might explode. First page, hotel receipts. Midweek check-ins, 2-hour windows. Name on the room, Shannon R. Always during work hours. Next, restaurant bills. Upscale places we never went to. Wine, steak, desserts. Her card. Our card. Then the photos. Her and Brent, walking out of a lakeside B&B. Holding hands. Her in yoga pants and a hoodie, laughing. Him in some tech bro vest, keys dangling from his finger. One shot had her resting her head on his shoulder in the parking lot. I didn't say a word. Hank kept flipping. Text records, he said, pulling out a stapled printout. I didn't read the full content. It's encrypted, but timestamps and frequency don't lie. Midnight, 1 a.m. whole weekends. I scanned the sheets. My chest wasn't tight. My fists weren't clenched. I just felt still. How long? I asked. Best I can tell, for months. But if I dug deeper, might be longer. They weren't subtle about it. He's been in your house twice when you weren't home. Once in April, once in early June. I didn't want to hear more. I've seen enough, I said, sliding everything back into the folder. You did good. Thank you. He gave a small nod. Most people think the hard part's the proof. It's not. I left without another word. The drive home was quiet. No music. No thoughts. Just the steady rhythm of tires on pavement. I pulled into the driveway like it was any other Wednesday. Inside, I set the folder down on the kitchen counter. Right in the middle. Nothing dramatic. Just centered. Unavoidable. Then I sat at the table and waited. About 20 minutes later, I heard the garage open. Yoga mat hit the wall. Keys on the hook. Her phone buzzed twice before she even walked in. She stepped into the kitchen and froze. Saw the folder. Then saw me. Her eyes did a quick scan, first the folder, then my face. Calculating. What's that? She asked, voice too light. You tell me, I said. She looked at it like it might bite her. Didn't move any closer. You're being weird. I didn't respond. You know, if this is another guilt trip over Brent. It's not a guilt trip, I said, standing up. It's facts. Open it. Or don't. Either way, I already have. She didn't move. Just stood there like a deer that finally spotted the headlights. And for once, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. She didn't open the folder. Just stood there, blinking at it like it might disappear if she looked away long enough. Then came the words. Fast. Like a faucet turned on too high. This is crazy, she said. You hired someone to follow me? Do you realize how invasive that is? How controlling it makes you look? I didn't answer. I just pulled the folder closer and flipped it open. One page at a time. Calm. Steady. This one, I said, holding up the hotel receipt. Wednesday, March 15th. Room booked under your name. Noon check-in. 2 hours later. You said you had a migraine and needed to lie down before our son's practice. She crossed her arms tight. I told you I met a client that day. You told me a lot of things, I said. Problem is, they all fall apart the second you look at a timestamp. She stepped back like I'd shoved her. You don't know what this is. Brent and we've worked together for years. We're close, but that doesn't mean. I held up the photo. The one where she was leaning into Brent outside that B&B, her hand in his. For months, I said. That's how long Hank traced it. Probably longer. Hotel rooms, dinners, weekend trips. You used our shared credit card. You didn't even bother to cover your tracks. Her voice cracked. It didn't mean anything. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yeah? Then you're worse than I thought. She finally sat down at the table, hands gripping the edge like she needed it to keep herself upright. Her eyes were glassy now. Real tears, or at least good ones. I messed up, she said quietly. But you've been so distant for years. I didn't know how to reach you. Right? I said, pulling out the restaurant receipt. So your solution was lobster with Brent while I reheated leftovers with our kid. I didn't plan for this to happen. No one does. I cut in. But you kept choosing it. Over and over. Every text. Every lie. Every time you looked me in the eye and made me feel crazy for asking. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking now. I don't want to lose this. You already did, I said. You just didn't notice. Her hands dropped. So that's it? You're just done. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I said. I told him I want it clean. No games. No drama. We split what's fair. We handle it like adults. But yeah, I'm done. Her mouth opened like she had something big to say, but nothing came out. Then finally she found her last card. What about our son? She said. You're gonna tear his family apart? You really think that's what he needs? I didn't flinch. He needs a father who has a spine, and he's not gonna learn that from watching me sit around and accept being humiliated. She shook her head. He won't understand. Then I'll explain it to him, I said. He deserves the truth, not the version you'll spin to make yourself look better. She stood up again, breathing heavy. So you're the victim now, huh? No, I said. I'm just not your punchline anymore. She didn't respond, just stormed off down the hall, bedroom door slamming behind her. I cleaned up the table, poured myself a glass of water, and carried the folder upstairs. I placed it in the drawer next to the bed, my bed. Then I climbed in and lay back against the pillows. Room was quiet, the kind of quiet that settles in your bones. And for the first time since I could remember, I didn't feel like a guest in my own damn life. I felt like I was finally home. 6 months later, I was living in a 2-bedroom rental near the marina. Nothing fancy, just clean walls, working plumbing, and quiet neighbors. I could see the boats from my kitchen window if I stood at the right angle. My name was the only one on the lease. That alone made it feel like freedom. The divorce went through without fireworks. We split assets clean like I said we would. Our son handled it better than I expected. Kids know more than we think. I sat him down, told him the truth. Just enough to help him understand. Not enough to make him choose sides. Shannon and Brent? I didn't ask. Didn't care. Far as I was concerned, they were someone else's problem now. Elena and I still met for lunch every other week. Same booth at Morrison's. She'd always order black coffee, no sugar, and call me out when I played it safe on the menu. We weren't dating. Not officially. But we were something. Closer than friends. She was the only person who didn't flinch when I said out loud that I'd lost myself for years. She just nodded, like she already knew, and reminded me who I used to be. I'd started my own contracting supply business. Real small. Just me, a rented truck, and a garage full of inventory I negotiated hard to get at discount. But it was mine. Every nail, every invoice, every phone call. It all came through me. One afternoon, Elena leaned back in her seat and asked, So if I invited you to dinner, like, not as just friends, what would you say? I didn't hesitate. I'd say yes. She smiled, shook her head. Took you long enough. That night, I sat on the balcony with a glass of whiskey, feet kicked up, cool air off the water brushing against my skin. I opened my laptop and updated my business site, added 2 new service areas, rewrote the About page, changed the header from we to I. Then I just sat there. No noise, no eggshells, no spotlight I didn't ask for. For the first time in years, I wasn't the joke in someone else's story. I was finally writing my own. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. And if this story hit you, like and subscribe for more.